Welcome to Quick Course Digest. Today we're tackling a skill that can honestly make or break your entire career, workplace communication. I'm talking about everything from the emails you fire off to the big presentations you give. So let's dive in and figure out how to communicate with some real clarity, persuasion, and integrity. Here's our game plan. We'll start with the absolute bedrock, the core principles of communication. Then we'll build on that and get into mastering oral communication. After that, we'll switch gears to perfecting your written communication. And finally, we'll wrap it all up by talking about integrity and polish, that little bit of extra that really makes you stand out. All right, let's jump right into section 1, communication's core principles. Think of these as the fundamental rules of the road for every single message you're ever going to send. So, what's the secret sauce? What really separates someone who's just okay at communicating from someone who's truly great at it? Well, it's way more than just using proper grammar. It's about understanding all the invisible stuff that shapes how our message lands. A perfect example is jargon. You know, it's that special lingo every profession has, like when finance folks talk about arbitrage or designers talk about kerning. With the right people, it's super efficient, a real time saver. But with anyone else, it's like putting up a giant wall and your message just isn't getting through. Now, slang, that's a whole different animal. It's casual, it changes all the time, and it's more about fitting in with a group than being efficient. And you gotta be careful with it at work. Using the wrong slang can make you seem unprofessional, or worse, just leave people scratching their heads wondering what you're talking about. Culture also has a massive impact. In individualistic cultures, like in the US, the spotlight is on the I, my goals, my achievements. But in collectivistic cultures, it's all about the we, what's best for the team, the family, the community. Understanding this single difference is absolutely critical because it changes everything about how you should communicate. Okay, section 2. Let's talk about mastering oral communication. This is where we take all those core ideas we just discussed and apply them to the moments you have to actually, speak to people. So every presentation you give really boils down to one of two things. An informative presentation is all about sharing knowledge. Think of a quarterly update. Your job is to be credible and present the facts clearly. But a persuasive presentation, well, that's where you're trying to change minds, to get people on board with an idea. You're not just a reporter, you're an advocate. So how do you actually build a speech that people remember? The 5-finger model is an awesome, super simple tool for this. First, your thumb. That's your attention grabber. Then you got your introduction, the body, and the conclusion. And what about that little pinky finger? That's your residual message, the one thing you want them to walk away remembering. And your slides, your visual aids, they need to help, not hurt. Just remember these 4 simple rules. Make them big enough for the person in the back to see. Make them clear so people get the point instantly. Keep them simple so they don't cause confusion. And make them consistent so your whole presentation looks polished and professional. All right, let's shift gears from the spoken word to the written word. Section 3 is all about perfecting written communication because, let's face it, most of our work communication happens through text. You know, the channel you pick is a message in itself. A text is great for something quick and informal, but terrible for details. Email gives you a written record, but it's easy to ignore and lacks any kind of emotional tone. Knowing the pros and cons and choosing the right tool for the job is a real power move. And here's something you've got to remember. Great writing is not just about avoiding typos. I mean, that's the bare minimum. Truly great writing is about the art of persuasion, of building a case so clear and compelling that your reader can't help but agree with you. And we can do that by using 3 ancient but incredibly powerful tools. There's logos, which is your appeal to logic, just the facts, the data. There's ethos, which is all about your credibility and building trust. And then there's pathos, the appeal to emotion. The best messages, they weave all 3 of these together. And before you hit send on that next important email, please just run through this quick checklist. Is your main point crystal clear? Who's your audience? And is the tone right for them? Is it concise or are you rambling? And don't forget the basics, like a subject line. But my favorite tip, my absolute favorite, is the last one. Read it out loud. You will be amazed at how many awkward phrases you catch. Okay, on to our final section, and it's a big one. This is where we put it all together. It's about communicating with integrity and polish. This is what builds real trust and gives your work that professional shine. At the very heart of integrity is this idea you persuade people with solid reasoning, not with cheap tricks. That means you have to learn to avoid these flawed arguments called logical fallacies, and just as importantly, you have to learn how to spot them when other people are using them. Here are 3 of the most common ones to watch out for. The red herring, that's just a distraction, changing the subject. The straw man is when you misrepresent someone's argument to make it easier to attack. And begging the question is just circular reasoning, where your proof is the same as your claim. Knowing these will make your own argument so much stronger. Now, your job isn't done when you finish that first draft. Far from it. The revision process, that's where good writing becomes great writing. It's so much more than just a spell check. It's about strategically sharpening your message until it's perfect. So, a really solid revision should cover 4 key areas. First, check your content. Is everything there that needs to be? Then look at the organization. Does it flow logically? After that, evaluate your style. Is the tone right? And finally, check for readability. Is this actually easy for your audience to understand? You know, at the end of the day, the goal for all of this is actually pretty simple. It's not about using fancy words or complex sentences to sound smart. It's about achieving pure, simple clarity. It's about writing something so clear and concise that it is basically impossible to misunderstand. So I want to leave you with a challenge. Think about the very next email you have to write, or the very next meeting you have to attend. What is the one thing you are going to do differently after hearing all this? Because that one small, deliberate change, that's how you start the journey to becoming a truly exceptional communicator.